right, like if you're gonna man up and you're gonna get out there and you're gonna play, like I said, you're gonna play with the big dogs, you got to get off the porch. And if you can't hack it, then you might as well just lay around in your room like a little girl. Stay in your mom's basement and play video games because you don't belong in the world.
Right.
But that's not what people need. It's not good for you. It's not healthy to do that. Like but that's why Jordan Peterson always says, like, Jordan Peterson has never said anything that I've heard that I couldn't like detransition and translate into something my dad taught me. Right.
What is up, everybody? My name is Kyle Matovcik. I am the host of the In Liberty and Health podcast, where we talk all things liberty, health, and wellness, and beyond. My hope is to encourage and spread the message of liberty and physical and mental well-being. I hope you enjoy all the topics we talk about with our guests. We're on all major streaming platforms, so please sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Man, I'm doing as good as anyone can do getting buried by his 13-year-old son on leg day.
I'm not going to apologize for not being on this podcast because I got to go see Metallica. So if that's a problem, kiss my ass. Okay? All right.
All right, everybody, returning to the show for the 4th, 5th, 6th, I don't know, maybe like 20th time.
We talk all the time, man. Who knows?
Yeah. Tommy Salmons, how you doing, dude?
What's up, man?
Nothing. I was listening to you on who is it? Justin Campbell's podcast the other day, and I remember you saying, "Oh yeah, being off Twitter, I get so much more shit done." And I'm like, I just got a 7-day suspension, and I have this alt, and I'm not as compelled to go on it because I don't have as many followers on this one. So I completely empathize with you.
Yeah, I have no desire to get back on social media. I mean, I have other social media. I just don't use it, and it's like, all right, like whatever. I jump on Facebook like once in a while just to like read what some people are saying, but I don't even comment or anything. I just,
Yeah, Facebook's a lot less of a battleground than Twitter. You go on Twitter and you're kind of expecting to get daggers from every single direction, and you're expecting to, return some as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasted a lot of time on Twitter, and I was just like, I got kicked off, and I was already kind of over it. All right, whatever. If they reinstate my account, they reinstate my account, and then I just never even. I don't even look. I'll look maybe like once a month or something. I'll just be like, hey, what's going on Twitter? And it'll tell me, oh, your account's still suspended. I'm like, okay, fine. And I'll scroll through and read a couple of things, and then that's that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, kind of keep going on about the day. The one thing you and I always shoot the shit about, and the one thing that just drives me nuts, and you're a lot more mature and wiser than I am, is the pit bull craze, because the pit bull faggots were out in full force over the last couple of weeks, because Matt Walsh put out a tweet saying something to the degree of we should kill all the pit bulls, and then a lot of these Daily Wire douchebags say the same thing, and it's like we're literally talking about 55 deaths a year that not even all come from dogs. Is this really the hill you're going to die on?
Well, I mean, I just heard Crowder's testimony on Timcast, and I think we should kill all the Daily Wires.
Fair assessment, completely fair assessment. But you know what? They may think that you're kind of implying how do I want to put this? Closing the oven door. If you follow my saying here.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that.
If you're saying kill all Daily Wire, that has some pretty heavy.
I was just imagining, Matt Walsh on a stake, and as the fires get lit, he's like, "But what is a woman?"
Yeah, dude. I you know what?
No, it's kind of like that article I sent you the other day, though. Like, what breed? Like, you say pit bull, but what breed? Pit bull is shorthand. Like, what breed do you want to do away with? Do you want to do away with the American Bulldog, the Staffordshire, the Bull Terrier, the American Pit Bull Terrier? Like, which breed? Like, tell me which one you don't like, because I don't know which one you don't like.
Right. Well, even when you look at all of these death certificates, are like I don't even want to say the death certificates.
They all say COVID.
Right. But when you look at like the dog attack,
mauled by a dog, died. with COVID.
Yeah, shark attack, died by COVID. When you look at all the breakdowns of like dog bites and dog fatalities, they'll say pit bull, but as you just said, there's all these different breeds. So
Right. They never narrow it down.
Right.
They never tell you which breed it is. And they never tell you. Another thing that usually doesn't come out until everybody's stopped talking about it is how the dog was treated and abused for 4 or 5 years, you know? And then like I read a story a while back, and it was this lady who had adopted this dog. It was a 5-year-old American Pit Bull Terrier, and she adopted him after he had already been with one home. And then these people found him on the street, nursed him back to health, and this lady adopts him. So he's 5 years old, and she started dating this guy, and this dude they get in an argument, and he starts going batshit crazy, screaming at her and her kids and everything. So this dog lunges at him, and when it did, she tried to pull the dog off, and dog turned around and just basically took her arm off.
Ooh.
But I mean, it wasn't until 2 days later, when there was an update on the story, that you found out that the reason the dog had been picked up off the street and put in a shelter was because the dog had been abused by this man that had like beat the hell out of it. And usually when people are beating the hell out of something, they're probably screaming at it too.
Right.
So this guy yelling at this dog freaked it out. I had a friend of mine who had a pit that he rescued at the age of 7, and it was an older pit, and you couldn't wear a hat around it. If it saw you, if you put on a cap, that dog would freak out. And it really wouldn't. I never saw it attack anybody, but it would growl, it would bark, it would get like, you could tell it was pissed off.
Right.
But as soon as you took the hat off, it would go calm down and it would go lay in a corner. Like, it would leave you alone. So you have to understand, like, the situation that a lot of these dogs are raised in are really bad situations. So, I mean, if, my mom was attacked by a chow when she was a little girl, that doesn't mean I want to like destroy all chows, even though chows have some of the worst attitudes of any dog I've ever met in my life. Chows and Cocker Spaniels, they're like the dicks of dogs, right? And so it's like, all right, just because I got scratched by a tabby on my face, I don't think we should put all tabby cats to sleep,
Right.
Like, what are we talking about here? Like, there is something to be said about the way these animals are raised and treated. And so, yeah, I find it ridiculous. I kind of like find it absurd. I remember when I was driving over the road, I'd go into Colorado and I'd go to Denver, and pit bulls are illegal in Denver.
Oh,
So
wow.
I wouldn't be able to get my dog out to use the bathroom when I was in Denver. I had to make sure that I could get in, get my load, and get out so that I could allow my dog to use the bathroom outside of the city limits of Denver.
Holy shit. Jesus. Yeah. And so, like, when it comes to shit like that, was it just like pit bulls overall, or do they kind of like specify a breed? Is it because like
They never specify. They just say pit bulls. They're really talking about bully breed dogs. If you had a cane corso, they would call it a pit bull, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean,
like
so like Joe and Steve.
Slayer is 11 years old when he died, but they would have called him a pit bull.
Yeah.
Because of the shape of his head, but then if you saw my old Staffordshire, they wouldn't have called, or no, he was an American Pit Bull Terrier. Sorry. They wouldn't have called him a pit bull because his snout was narrow. I think it's like, okay, so it's the block-headed dogs you have a problem with, right? It's not the breed of dog. It's a dog with a block head that's muscular and strong, like Boogie, like, that type deal. Now, I went through all kinds of border crossings and stuff like that when I was driving over the road, and I always was concerned, like, whenever, because you have to stop and they'll ask, are you from the United States? And yeah, I'm a citizen, blah, blah, blah. And they'll be like, all right. Well, Boogie, anytime I would stop, he would wake up in his seat and jump from his seat into my lap and stare out the window. And so I had to roll the window down And so what I would have to do is I'd have to wrap my arm around his chest and let the guy know he's not aggressive, and then roll the window down, and Boogie would be sniffing and trying to see what was going on down there. But every one of those guys, every one of the Border Patrol agents always just told me, man, that's a beautiful dog. I bet he's a really good companion. So yeah, I never had any issues like that, but you know, I was always concerned with it.
Wow. Yeah. See, and before I had Lily, I mean, I wasn't even like a dog person, right? So like before I met my wife and she moved in, didn't have a dog, and I thought like, oh, nobody really hates pit bulls, right? Like nobody really cares. Like it's just a stigma. Probably there's a few people that are probably assholes about it, but it's probably not that big of a deal. And then like I get on Twitter and I start looking around, and the way that people are about it, I'm like, holy fuck. But what I was going to say earlier is Jen and Steve, my bass player and singer, they raise cane corsos, which is funny you brought that up. Cane corsos are Italian mastiffs, and some of theirs kind of have like a little bit more of a Doberman shape, where they're a little bit taller, leaner, but they're still, you know, husky as shit.
Oh yeah,
and then some of their other
those are
ones,
big dogs. They're beautiful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're gorgeous. And then some of their other ones are a little bit shorter and stockier, and they look like a pit bull. But you know, they're still really friendly. But I mean, some of them, like they're one. Every time I go over there, and I've been going over to their house for, you know, at least once a month for the last couple of years, probably like the last 4 or 5 years. He still paces back and forth and barks whenever I go over. He is protective as fuck. And I guarantee you go in there, you're probably not coming back out in one piece. But
yeah, if you have bad intentions, like yeah.
He said, you know, you take them out of there though, they're calm and nice as could be. And it's the same deal with our other dogs. And it's also kind of funny because now Axton and Lily are kind of having a little bit of a rocky road now, and Axton has actually been a lot rougher with Lily than vice versa. I mean, Axton's bigger than her, but you know, supposedly if you ask just about any person in the world, they'd probably tell you that Lily would be the one to fuck him up, but he's been the one pinning her down and kind of getting at her. But we kind of like notice, like Lily will kind of pin her ears back and kind of show some sort of aggression before she's about to start, you know, going after him whenever that used to happen. There's just little behaviors that we pick up on. And I feel like a lot of these situations where people got mauled by dogs, I feel like they just weren't privy to the situation. Like they weren't noticing the subtle cues that the dog was giving off that they were about to attack. Because it's never just they snap. There's a buildup. There's cues. They're going to tell you physically before they tell you, you know, before they literally bite you.
Right. A lot of times when it's the children too, if you notice, there's like 3 or 4 year olds.
Yeah.
And what will happen a lot of times is the kid will wander into the wrong yard, and then you have this little person staring eye to eye with a strange dog. And you know, they say you're not supposed to look a dog in the eye. Well, if you don't know the dog, yeah, you probably should. Now, I look my dogs in the eye all the time. I make eye contact with my dogs all the time, but that's how I train my dogs. Like, look at me, you're going to do this, and this is how we're going to operate. So like, if you come over to my house, you'll notice my dog, Boogie, especially more so than Butters, but Boogie is constantly looking at me for cues. Like, how do I act in this situation? You know, and we make eye contact a lot. A lot of times I'll tell him to do something without actually saying something. He just knows that, okay, this is the situation. And like, so I'm giving him these cues because I've raised him from a puppy. I mean, for 3 years, I was his entire life. He was in my truck with me 24/7. I was it. That was all he had. So we have that kind of bond. But if you're wandering into a strange yard, then you're gonna, you could definitely run into a situation like that. And it's sad that things like that happen, but it's not just going to happen with pit bulls. Dobermans will do the same thing. My cousin was attacked by his own Rottweiler.
Oh,
yeah. So it's like, okay, it happens. You know, these things do happen. And like, what can you do? You know, you're going to make every breed of guard dog illegal, because ultimately that's really what pit bulls are. No matter how you train them, they're loyal. They're not going to let something bad happen to you. There was this really cool story about this lady. So old lady had a pit bull. I think the dog was probably 8, 9 years old. It was an older dog. And this guy kicked in her door and pulled a gun on her. And the dog came running around the corner and jumped up at the guy's face. And the guy got off a shot the dog in the head. And the dog survived. Whoa. And saved that lady's life.
Wow.
You know? So, yeah, I mean, that's what they are. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's what these dogs are. They're loyal. There's not going to be a more loyal dog. When my kids were small, I had a Staffordshire named Autumn, and she was this really brown gold brindle, really beautiful dog. Mm-hmm. And so they would sleep on her. They would lay down. I would turn cartoons on in the living room, and she would lay in the floor, and they would lay on her and watch cartoons. And she wasn't going to let anything happen to those kids, you know? And so it's like, all right, well, I mean, it's obviously dependent on how you raise these dogs. Another thing that's happened with the pit bulls, a lot of the pit bull community, because there is such a demand for them, is a lot of these breeders are inbreeding them. And once you get a couple of generations into inbreeding, there's something wrong with them. Kind of like there was something wrong with Aldous and Julius Huxley due to inbreeding. I mean, it's one of those things that happens, you know? And so there is that phenomenon. And I'm not saying there isn't, but I mean, that could happen with any breed of dog, you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that people who say we should kill all the pit bulls or neuter them or do this or do that. I had one guy in my DM saying, oh, would you compromise and just say we should neuter all the pit bulls? I'm like, okay, well, let's kind of like walk through this, because at the end of the day, your goal is to reduce the amount of harm done to people, right? I think we can all get on board with that. Okay, fine. How are you going to enforce this? If you're going to say that we should go door to door and tell people that, like, hey, I'm going to neuter your dogs, I'm going to put down your dogs, do you think people are just going to say, all right? Like, it's a difference between like a gun and a dog, where there's definitely a lot of people who would probably fight for their guns, but I'd be willing to bet probably more people feel like their dogs are like part of their family.
They'd pull their guns for their dogs.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So do you think people are just like not going to react to this? Like, it's insane to think that this is something that could be implemented, and people talk about it all the time. And it goes to the whole like race stuff too. And like, I get noticing the patterns, but like, okay, well, what do we do about this? Like,
yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's a silly conversation to have with people, because they're completely emotional about, it's like, all right, well, let's say hippos kill like 22,000 people every year in Africa.
Oh, they're super territorial. They're mean as fuck.
Should we kill all the hippos? You know, like,
yeah,
you know, people kill millions of people every year. I'm just saying.
Well, okay. So I guess this pivots over nicely.
Maybe let's not get rid of the pit bulls. Maybe we get rid of the people, and there's no more people for the pit bulls to kill. How about that?
Well, there you go. Let them roam free. But you know, I definitely think that there's a little bit of a part of the globalist agenda, right? Is that you remove all the people. So I guess, you know, they don't understand what they're necessarily advocating for. And I say on the principle of, okay, I'm glad you brought that up, because now I remember. I was listening to you and Rachel Tobias go over, what was it, chapter 3. A lot of that stuff in there, and I wish I would have listened to it again this morning. A lot of that stuff was absolutely excellent, and I gotta get that and kind of breeze through that. The one thing that interests me about a lot of these conversations, though, is that people oftentimes don't realize like the human demand for ideology, where if you look back all throughout history, like, people are crazy about shit no matter what it is. Like, this isn't some new phenomena, this crazy woke stuff, right? This is just the
human nature does not change.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I was recording with Courtney earlier, we were talking about that. And, you know, it's one of the things I told her. I was like, you know, there are a lot of ways and reasons you can read the Bible. I was like, but if you sit down and you just look for patterns, you can imprint the patterns of civilization that is biblical onto modern society, because human nature does not change.
Right.
These ideologies, these philosophies are being recycled. They may give them different names. They may make them sound innocuous, but they are. Like, I guarantee you, if I sat down, I follow Malthusianism, it will lead me to the eugenics movement. And I follow the eugenics movement, it will lead me to the climate change agenda of today. So it went through global cooling in the 70s, global warming in the 90s, climate change into 2000s, right? And it's all going to come from the same place. And it's this social science, but it all has the same ends, the killing of massive amounts of people. All right. So look at what they're doing with like the agenda today. They're cutting down on nitrogen.
I am stoked to tell you guys about the show's new sponsor. I am now working with MTS Nutrition, which is a brand that I've believed in for a very, very long time, and they run awesome cells and they have awesome products. So I want to tell you about their amazing protein powder, which you're going to ask me how many pounds I have of the protein powder, and the answer is all of them. So here I got red velvet cake, 25 grams of protein, and they have the amino acids and everything on there, 59 servings. Peanut butter fluff, fluffernutter, 26 grams of protein, and then also the chocolate chip cookie, which literally has real pieces of chocolate chip cookie in there. So 27 grams of protein, 180. As I've talked about on the show, getting your protein in is very, very important. So make sure you hit that link below and purchase your protein powder through MTS Nutrition. Boom!
All right. So what is this doing? This is creating uprise in the Netherlands, where they have reduced the amount of farming these farmers can do, reduce the amount of food being produced. Can't get fertilizer out of Ukraine and Russia. Not like it's intentional that we went to war. That can't possibly be the thing. It can't be an agenda that the war happened when it happened, the way it happened. Right. But now the fertilizer problem, COVID came through. We had the supply chain breaking. All right. You take these three scenarios, just those three, add that together. They are estimating upwards of 60 million people in sub-Saharan Africa are going to die this year from starvation.
Holy
That's like an increase. That's like an increase of like 20 times what last year.
So what's really interesting about that is that you heard oftentimes people say that some of the largest growing economies were in sub-Saharan Africa over the last couple decades because, their standard of living was raising dramatically. And I think probably some of that is due to like the cobalt mining, some of the, different metals that they're mining, and then some of the stuff that China's doing, how they go over there. One of the sayings I really like is China goes into countries with briefcases and America goes over there with bombs. So, who do you think the countries tend to like more? There's a lot of things that go on over in Africa, obviously, and I think you're probably a little bit more well-versed on that than I am. But now you have this perfect storm with COVID and supply chains, and then now this war where now you can't feed, like you said, a large population of people. And those people typically live hand to mouth, where basically the labor they do that day is what feeds them that day. So they can't go for very long without any kind of productive labor, receiving any kind of income, or else they're going to starve.
Right. Well, and another thing I like to bring up whenever I'm having these conversations about population and about like the population control, right? You got the Jaffe memo. I think me and LB talked about this in detail. The Jaffe memo is a memo that came out internally in Planned Parenthood. Now, one of the things that they said, in order to control population, you had to end traditional families.
Yep. And
you had to push the homosexual agenda. This is all part of eugenics, the transgender movement, the LGBTQIA, the climate change agenda. All of these things are rooted out of the eugenics, the Malthusian movement of decreasing the population. And you look at what's happened to the population of the United States and the amount of children that are being born in the United States today compared to just 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, it was like the average family had like 2.3 kids per household. Now it's the average family has 1.6 kids per household, right? Now, that doesn't mean that they're shitting out little Johnny and cutting his arm off. That means that the birth rate is going down. It's dropping dramatically.
Yeah, and well, men and women are also getting married older and older because once
If
again,
at all.
yeah, right. So, and I'm kind of in the the target demographic because I think women on average get married around like 27, and then men get married around 29. So Sarah and I she's 26 and I'm 28. So we're pretty damn
I got married when I was 19. Then I got married when I was 23, 24. Then I got married when I was 32. Shit, I missed.
Well, you did your part though. You did your part because you had a couple of kids that it was funny. You sent me some pictures and I was like, holy fuck, I could tell who the fuck their dad is. Jesus Christ. If you put me next to my older brother and my dad, you would know right away, who's who.
Right.
But yeah, they really do punish this idea of the nuclear family, and you can't think it's not by design at this point. You have women go out and you tell them for their entire lives that they're special and that they don't need no man, and then go get a career and be happy at doing that. And then you expose a lot of this population to social media the way that we have, and now attention for women is very, very important, right? Because this is how they would interpret resources back in the day, and men always want unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. So you give men porn and you give women all the attention in the world, and then they start to go further and further apart. They have less and less children, and I think we're seeing those kind of consequences play out today.
Yeah, but they're all on drugs. They're all depressed. They're all doped up on Valium and all these opioids. And why are y'all so depressed? If you're getting all the attention you want, why are you so depressed? If you have access to all the sexuality online that you can handle, you're masturbating until you got blisters on the tip of your dick. Yeah. Like, why are you so depressed? What's going on? And it's because it's unnatural. It's not the way that humans were made to interact.
Exactly.
Right. That's not real interaction. There's the human touch, there's something to be said about the cleaving to your wife and your husband like that, to have that security right there. Right. And they want to make a big deal out of, Christianity says, women should obey their husbands and yada yada yada, which means a husband can be abusive. Well, no, that's not what it's saying at all. Actually, what the call is for a woman to be faithful and dedicated to her husband the way that you're called to be faithful and dedicated to the church, right? And the husband is called to be the priest of the family, right? So all the sins of that family fall upon that husband's shoulders. He's shouldering all the burden. He's supposed to take that burden off of you. That's what it means to love somebody, right? You take that. You're taking all that worry and that trouble on your shoulders, and you're carrying the load. That's what a husband's there to do, to be the priest of the house. But we lost all that. We've lost it all.
Yeah, and it's really disturbing to see, because it's like everybody I grew up with and all my best friends, other than maybe like a handful, all didn't have dads in their homes. Like they had two families, they had two Christmases. And I know a lot of people throw rocks at me, and I don't do myself any favors in this regard, but there are great step parents, and I was very blessed to have two great step parents, stepmom and stepdad. But this isn't a normal thing for society to have this many divorced parents all over the place. And you have to
but you'll never have that bond with the step parent that you have with your parent.
Exactly.
It's never replaced.
Yeah.
It could be helpful in the greatest of circumstances. If, let's say, your mom dies giving birth to you, you probably need a woman in your life to act in that motherly way. Right. But you're not supposed to be raised by people that aren't your parents.
Yeah. For some reason, that's very controversial to say, and to say that you don't want to raise somebody else's kids. And it's not that I'm putting down other people who do. I have no problem with it. But the fact is, I don't want to do it. And to a degree, men are going to have to kind of say, I'm not willing to put up with this anymore. So that way there's kind of an equilibrium here, because eventually people are just going to there's going to have to be a market demand for it. Right. And not that, it all boils down to economics, but people are going to have to understand that, like, okay, so if you're a woman, you have children, then your sexual market value is greatly reduced. And for men, you know, if you want to have kids of your own, then you need to be worthy of that, right? Kind of like you were saying, where the man's the priest of the family, where he takes responsibility for taking care of the house and being the breadwinner and stuff like that. And then in return, he gets a woman's loyalty, and then her being the mother of their children. That's the way that it's supposed to work. But
Right.
nowadays, what happens is that the woman gets the man that she desires, and then, you know, she splits up with him after a couple of years. And then the man that's a good long-term bet takes, you know, kind of picks up where that guy left off, or, you know, picked up where that guy wasn't quite ready to do that. And that's also why I feel like it's a big issue with polygamy. Like, people are talking about this a lot, and I thought it wasn't that big of a thing. And then I started talking to people. I'm like, you guys are like all fucking each other. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Well, why? But here's stuff like this is what really pushed me back in the direction of Christianity.
Sure.
Because I started seeing it and I was like, wait a second. That was like thousands of years ago people did this. Why are y'all doing it now? Like, what are you talking about?
The machine doesn't change.
Well, and it's not about the machine. It's like there's a spirit. It's like there's like demons, or, you know, however you want to say it, there's a spirit of it that is, it's corrupted, and it corrupts humanity, and it pulls humanity into specific directions.
Right.
And these directions, like you said, the machine doesn't change. They're always the same directions. And it's to pervert the good of what could be, right? If woman is created out of man's side to be the other half, and y'all together make a whole, then how do you pervert that? Well, you get in touch with your feminine side, and you become the woman that, instead of finding a woman, or you find several women because their utility is only in what they can offer you physically, right? Or something like that. And it's like this complete perversion of what the relationship is intended to be. And as you pervert that relationship, like, you don't have good because there's evil. You have good because there's a perversion. You know, I mean, you have evil because there's a perversion of the good. Right. The good exists, right? And you can find that good. But if you're perverting the good, then you find yourself in a place of evil.
So one thing that I think you've also had an interesting perspective on, I don't think we've talked about it a lot. You'll see how this kind of makes sense here in a second, but like, Jordan Peterson tells people to man up. And my problem with how people interpret Jordan Peterson is that they expect him
My dad always told me nut up or shut up. Why can't he just say that?
Fair enough.
Can't run with the big dogs. Don't get off the porch.
There you go. They look at Jordan Peterson as this ideal libertarian, you know, Giga Chad warrior, and he's just not that. But where he's good is that he's telling men that they need to be better, right? But the problem is, and I think you'll empathize with this, and you would know much more than me in this respect, is that there's no benefit to man up necessarily today, because when the cards are stacked against you as a man in family court, then, you know, what is 100% responsibility with 0% authority? It's pretty much slavery. And that's what, you know, basically we do to men today, is that we tell them that they have to be responsible for all the, you know, financial costs and the burden of raising a family, but though they have no, you know, decision-making in this whole deal, because we'll take your ass to court.
Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking and no one is thanking you. I mean, that's it. You just do what you got to do. Like, I'm setting an example for my kids. I'm not worried about getting a pat on the back.
Right. Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. Like, but like, it's not fair that it's like this, is like real beta shit. And I just don't give a fuck about it. Right.
Yeah.
It just is. I still got to be a man no matter what.
Yeah.
Right. And so I always, when my kids would get in trouble, I would have them like say that mantra: integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking and no one will thank you. Right. Character is, or courage is taking action. It isn't the absence of fear, but taking action despite the presence of fear. Like, I'd tell them it, like, what good are these words to them if I didn't show them that this is what life was about?
Right.
Like, that's what it was. Like, the problem is so many people are so worried about the immediate gratification that they forget that the responsibility brings a much deeper gratification, because you did the right thing, right? It's like when I was talking on Justin's show about my daughter, right? I could have gone the easy route. I could have like jumped in her mother's face and been like, you said all this stuff and you're lying, and done it in front of the kids. I could have badmouthed her to the kids and done all this stuff to get back at her, get that immediate gratification. But I chose the hard road, right? I chose to carry that burden and just say, okay, well, that's just the way it is.
Right.
But I had to make that, but I had to choose that. Yeah. I mean, if you're forced into that situation, then if somebody's holding a gun to your head and say, you can't do this, or you'll go to jail, then like, yeah, it's no good. But the character is built from doing that. The man you see before you today, the reason that we're so close and we're such good friends is because of the intent I took upon myself to burden these loads through my life and deal with it. I also look this ugly because of that. But that's another story, you know? So, but I'm beautiful on the inside, damn it.
Yeah, no, you're beautiful on the outside too, Tommy. Don't worry. If I had a full head of hair like yours, then I would definitely show it off. But unfortunately, that's leaving me as I get older. I didn't think it would happen, but it would. Yeah, and I agree that there is a large degree of you just got to fucking bite the bullet and rock and roll. But the one point I always try to make is that, like, I don't necessarily fault guys for saying, like, all right, man, I ain't doing this. Like, there's this group of men, the incels, and then like the MGTOWs. The MGTOWs kind of have like the right prescription, that like the cards are stacked against you, but they have the right diagnosis, but the wrong prescription. I'm sorry. So men going their own way are basically saying, okay, we're just not going to deal with women at all. But once again, that's the wrong prescription. You have the right diagnosis that, you know, the system's right now rigged against you. But that's not to say you should just, you know, go jack off in the basement. That's to say that you need to, you know, find somebody, you need to vet, you need to be very, very careful with who you know, and, you know, their entire family, and make sure that this is someone that you can be with for a long period of time. But nowadays, kind of like you were saying earlier, instant gratification. You hook up with somebody, it feels really good, it's enjoyable, and then next thing you know, you have a kid with them, and then you split up because it's no big deal. That kind of seems to be like the pulse for most people, and I really think that's detrimental to society as a whole.
Yeah, I think it's completely detrimental to society as a whole. And I understand getting frustrated with the system. I mean, I dealt with it for 20 plus years. Like, yeah, I get it, but so the fuck what? Like, seriously, so what? Right? Like, am I supposed to be so selfish that I feel sorry for myself and I go sit in a corner and suck my thumb and cry myself to sleep every night? Or do I just nut up and just do what I got to do? Set an example for my kids, be the priest for them that their mother wouldn't. And like, I couldn't be that for their mother because she left the church, so to speak, but I can be that for them. Right. So like, I don't care. I don't care that your feelings are hurt. It doesn't matter. You know?
Yeah.
Andrew Tate said something, and I don't listen to him a lot, but I've heard Tim Pool repeat this, and I think it's really good advice. It doesn't matter how I feel. I got to do the same thing every day.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. It, like we were talking about being sick earlier. I think it was before we were recording. Yeah. But I didn't take time off work because I was sick. I didn't feel good. Boo-hoo. I got to pay the bills. If I don't work, the bills don't get paid. I don't eat. Like, I have choices to make.
Yeah, I think that attitude's missing from a lot of people as well. And I think that is somewhat of the Jordan Peterson-esque message in a way as well, is that, like you said, you just got to do what you got to fucking do.
But see, that this is why Jordan Peterson says that he's so popular, because like young men are missing their dads.
Yeah.
I didn't need Jordan Peterson to teach me this message. I had a dad.
So did
I could look at and go, oh, well, that's how I'm supposed to do it. You know, my dad was working 2 full-time jobs, you know, like most of my young childhood. I very rarely got to spend time with him. And when we were spending time together, we were out playing basketball or throwing the football, you know, and if I got a little boo-boo, he'd be like, suck it up, Buttercup, we're playing basketball. So what if you dove off? You shouldn't have dove off the court to save the ball from going out of bounds if you didn't want a spark plug sticking out of your arm. True story. It happened. Like, all right, like if you're gonna man up and you're gonna get out there and you're gonna play, like I said, you're gonna play with the big dogs, you got to get off the porch. And if you can't hack it, then you might as well just lay around in your room like a little girl. Stay in your mom's basement and play video games because you don't belong in the world. Right. But that's not what people need. It's not good for you. It's not healthy to do that. Like but that's why Jordan Peterson always says, like, Jordan Peterson has never said anything that I've heard that I couldn't like detransition and translate into something my dad taught me. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's like my dad told me one time that getting your ass kicked doesn't hurt near as bad as not fighting. So what's he telling me? He was like, yeah, if you back down from a fight, your pride's going to be hurt. So you might as well just nut up and get in there. Right. Because your pride doesn't heal near as fast as a bruise on your face. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. And that kind of reminded me of when I was a little bit younger, and I really regret it not spending more time with my grandfather, my dad, and like some of the guys that I just used to be able to kind of have their ear for a little bit. So like my dad would take us to breakfast at the small town diner, and this place is still around. They still only take cash, and it's still like the most amazing breakfast ever. But I remember going with the plumber for my family, the chiropractor, I want to say the other guy was an electrician, and then my dad and my brother and I, when my mom and dad were split up, so we would occasionally get to spend time with our dad, and we'd go to breakfast with all of them. And like, just looking back now, I'm like, man, what I wouldn't give to kind of just be the fly on the wall that actually wanted to be there at the time, because just like the knowledge of years of like these great people, because my dad at the time was in his mid-40s. These other guys were in like their 50s, 60s, that had just been around for so long and had the same attitude that you and I have. But I'm sure you probably developed better than I did, because you were probably around your dad more than I was. I don't know, but that kind of blue collar, just rough through it attitude. I built it up, but it wasn't innate to me, right? I earned it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know if I was around my dad more. Like I said, he worked 2 full-time jobs when I was a kid growing up. And my parents did divorce when I was really young. I just was lucky enough they got back together when I was about 6 years old. Okay. Now, there were some rough times, like no doubt, but yeah, it's just, I can look around and I can see the diagnosis for boys, for men. I can see what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, yeah, they were raised by a woman that bailed them out. Right. And I don't mean this in a derogatory manner. You're raised by a woman. That woman is going to nurture you. That's what her job is. That's what she wants to do. She wants to nurture you, and she wants to protect you and make sure that you don't get hurt. Right. The dad's the one that carries the mattress outside the house, lays it down, and tells you to get on the roof and jump on it. Right? Like, let's see what happens, because, it's the dads have a role in the lives of girls and in boys. Right? A lot of people say, well, young men need their dads. Young girls need their dads too. Right. That dad sets the example of how you should be treated when you're married. Mm-hmm. That dad is going to treat you like a princess every day of your life. And that sets the tone, that sets the standard for your mate, for who you're looking for in a spouse. Right? If you don't treat me this way, I'm not going to put up with it.
Yeah. Dr. Warren Farrell has written a couple books, and I would really like to read them, and I'd really like to have him on the show. I did email with him back and forth when I first started the show, but he said get back to him in like a year, which that means no, pretty much. But
well, it's no for now.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been over a year, so I'm probably still too small, and that's okay. Yeah, I would respect people more if they would just say like no. Actually, you know what? I did get an email, and I don't know if I sent it over to you. There's this one dude who does like a lot of fitness research, and his name's like Menno Henselmans, and they're the email that they wrote back to me after I gave them all like my links and everything, they said, "Oh, he only has time for people with far more subscribers than you." Like the fact they put far more, I'm like,
yeah, you told me.
yeah. I was like, at least they're honest.
Right.
Like I
Okay.
can respect that.
I'll work harder. I'll get back to you.
Yeah. But anyways, that's a
or if he has a plummet in reputation like the Liver King, then
there you go. Yeah,
you may be the only show he could get on.
right. Dr. Warren Farrell brings up how roughhousing with boys and girls actually makes them more empathetic rather than less. And this is something that we've lost over time, is this play, because the idea of play, once again, teaches you boundaries, and it teaches you how to interact with your own body, and not only that, with the bodies of others without hurting them. Because, you know, if you go and I stick my finger in your eye, then obviously that's too far. But if I pick you up and body slam you on the couch, okay, we're fine. But, you know, when you start hurting each other, then once again, you know, you've gone too far. But the dad's able to step in there and say, hey, you've gone too far, or, you know, this is okay. That kind of seems to be what he laid out in the literature that he had read. And that seems to be, from what I understand, lacking a lot today, because once again, we're over feminized. We're told to get in touch with our female side, be gentle, don't get too rough. And, you know, the boys, when they're acting up in the classroom, well, let's just drug those little bastards because they're loud and rowdy and they need to act like little girls.
Yeah. I remember when I was, my brother and I were younger, and my mom wouldn't be home. My dad would be home with us because he worked retail a lot of times. A lot of our life he worked retail, so he'd have a day off during the week or whatever. We'd be home like during the summer or whatever with him. My mom would be at work, and my brother and I'd get in a fight. He'd bring us out in the backyard and say, "All right, settle it." And he'd just sit there and watch and let us beat the hell out of each other, you know. And you know, and so like moms don't know how to do that, but moms, a lot of times, a lot of the violent boys that are being raised in society are being raised by single moms.
Yep.
And
Look
a lot of that
mass shooters.
A lot of the reasoning is because moms don't know how to deal with that wild spirit. Like they don't, like boys are wild. Boys have this feral desire to just be physical and rough and in your face. And a lot of times moms result to spanking boys a lot quicker than a dad will. A dad is much more understanding and will sit and talk and listen to what is being said. You know, one of the things that I always did with my boys whenever I was growing up, or when they were growing up, I'm sorry, is I would spank them. And when they calmed down, I would talk to them about why they got in trouble and why it led to a spanking. And my youngest son, he just wouldn't. I've talked about this before because I remember I got a message from a guy about this. My youngest son just would not. It just didn't work. It didn't matter what I did. So I started putting him in the push-up position and just making him sit there or do the electric chair and like bringing him through like military style PT exercises. And like within a month, he stopped getting in trouble. Never got in trouble again. Yeah, it was like, all right, well, but so you do have to gauge how you discipline your children and judge whether or not it's beginning to get too much. You know, I was spanking this kid like 4 or 5 times a night after I got home from work. You know, so you're talking about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon till 8:30 at night when he went to bed. He's getting spanked 4 or 5 times. Like, this can't continue. I don't want to. Like, this is no way for him to be raised. Like, we're not interacting in any way other than I'm just beating your ass all the time. Like, that's not how you engage with children, you know, and raise a healthy child. So I had to get creative and figure out different ways of disciplining him and talking to him. And I did, you know, and it worked. Like after about a month and a half, 2 months, maybe, he came up to me one weekend. It was like one Saturday. We were just sitting there. We were playing Wii. This is back when there was the Wii. We were bowling.
Holy shit. Oh my God. Real quick. I remember my brother and I waited 12 and a half hours in a fucking Walmart to get Wii when it first came out. I will never forget. We watched the Doom. I think it was the Doom movie with Dwayne Johnson, and they have the first person scene. I don't know if you ever saw it.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I'm sorry.
Yeah. So we were playing Wii, and we were bowling, and he's like, Dad, and I was like, what? He goes, you don't have me do PT anymore. Well, you haven't been in trouble. He's like, yeah, but I like doing PT. I was like, well, do PT then. So he started doing it on his own. Still wasn't getting in trouble. He started doing it on his own because he enjoyed it. And so, yeah, like you learn things like that, but that's part of the growth. That's part of fun. Like I would never have like some of the stories I have if it weren't for being involved in my children's lives as much as I could be. Even with the job I had driving truck and being gone, especially after my second divorce, like I still tried to make as much time as possible to spend with them, no matter what was going on. And, it wasn't always possible. When my three oldest, because I had three with my first wife, two with my second, my three oldest were still young. There were times I couldn't afford gas to go pick them up and spend time with them. And I felt horrible. It would just eat me up. Like, what kind of man am I? And it made me want to work harder to get to a position where I could go spend that time with them. Right. And so, but it, like, men have that internal eating at them. Like, there's always something eating. Like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not giving enough. A lot of a man's ambition isn't for the sake of getting wealthy or famous or anything like that. A lot of it is because I like my family wants something and I can't provide it. So I have to do something to get that.
What's up, everybody? We're going to take a quick break and tell you about the show's sponsors. We are brought to you by LMNT electrolytes. I've been using this stuff for years, and what I've honestly found is that if I didn't have electrolytes before some kind of cardio, and sometimes even before workouts, that my workout performance, or definitely cardio performance, would suffer greatly. Sodium is responsible for every single movement pretty much in your entire body, and let's say you drink a lot of caffeine, like I like to do, then maybe it is a good idea, like I do every single morning, put some LMNT chocolate electrolytes there in your coffee to get a little bit more sodium, potassium, and magnesium in your coffee, so that way whatever diuretic effect you get from the caffeine is pretty much diluted by the fact that you put chocolate salt in it. Also, it tastes really, really good. Get some chocolate cream or hazelnut cream or even coconut, and mix that all up. It tastes really, really good. So yeah, make sure you drop by, go to drinklmnt.com/inlibertyandhealth and pick you up some electrolytes today. All right, guys, thanks.
Like, that's like the biggest like boost, kick in the ass, is understanding that your children want to spend time with you and you can't afford the $10 in the car to drive 20 minutes away and pick them up, because then you won't be able to go to work and pay child support the next week, and so, like, that'll do something to your psyche. That makes you something different than just an average person. And so, but you have to go through those hardships and those hard times to understand what it is to really dig down and find out what you are, like what you're made of, right? That's how you discover these things.
Yeah, there's kind of your bigger idea there is that the machine is not built to be just happy and fine the way it is, because I'm sure same as I do, whenever I hit these records on the deadlift or a certain exercise or hit a certain weight, play a certain venue, like
I don't know shit about a deadlift. I don't even know what a deadlift is. Are you robbing graves? Like, what's happening here?
That's the funniest way I've ever heard a deadlift explained. But when you do hit kind of this personal record or this thing you've been, really thirsting after for so long, it's here and gone. Like, it's not a sustained thing. A lot of the enjoyment is in the chase and in the building and in the grind. And that's why I enjoy, going to the gym and lifting and then practicing, or, all the stuff that to some people may even seem like suffering, but though it's like, this is for what you want, you're building something. I'm guessing it's probably the same way with you and homesteading as you're kind of doing now.
I mean, I guess it's kind of cold and nasty. Not really doing much of anything. My chickens are running around that yard, and that's pretty much
chasing
it.
your dogs.
My ducks chasing my dog. But it was funny. It was funny. Freaking yesterday, dude. No, it wasn't yesterday because it was so nasty yesterday. It was the day before yesterday. I'm sitting out on my front porch and I'm reading, and this duck, is chasing Butters and just making circles, and Boogie's standing right there, like by the front door, and just watching, and they keep running right next to him. And I guess Boogie just got tired of it. So he waited and his Butters ran by. That duck's coming by, Boogie just, bam, and just smashed that duck's head down on the ground and is holding it there. It's like, stop it. and he looks over at me and I'm like, Boogie, stop. And he lets his paw up and it's like, okay. And he walks over to me. Like, but first thing he did when he did it, he looked at me like, is this okay? Can I do this? And I'm like, dude, let the duck up. Yeah.
I can't imagine the noise the duck would make when it's being held down by a fucking.
It made no noise. It just had those big eyes are just like, oh shit. Because they don't jack with Boogie at all. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, the brown one did today, which was funny because Boogie was, I don't know what he was doing. The ducks, because there was all the rainwater, so there are all these worms coming up to the surface, and the ducks out there and like drinking out of the water, eating the worms, and Boogie comes up behind it and nudges it with his nose. And that duck turned around and Boogie took a step at it and the duck took off running. So Boogie started chasing the duck. It like kind of like a, see, I can chase you too, motherfucker. But it was the other duck, because the brown duck does nothing. It just kind of watches when everything's happening. And so I see what's going on and I knock on the window. I say, hey, Boogie, stop it. So he's like, all right. So he turned around and he comes walking back in the house. Well, as he comes walking back in the house, the duck puts his head down and runs after him. I'm like, this motherfucker.
You just saved his ass and he's going after him.
Yeah, he's like, I told you. That's what I thought, motherfucker. So, yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, the other morning I went
freaking animals crack me up.
Yeah, I went to go get the dogs out of the bed, and because I usually go take a shower, I'll get up in the morning and we'll have some of them in the bed or that, or I'll leave them lay with Sarah. And Posh is super old, so she's delicate. She kind of gets up slowly and starts kind of creeping her way downstairs. Axton, as soon as you go up to him, he's up and ready to go. Lily, you kind of have to nudge her and then she'll get out. Axton came in and just like, Posh just got up and he like slammed his paw on her and she yelped super loud. I'm like, man, she's like a little 15-year-old mini pig. She's delicate, man. You gotta fucking be careful. But it was kind of funny. And she fucking snipped after him. She's not afraid to go after him. And it's funny. This little 5-pound mini pin will chase around this 90-pound Doberman Australian Shepherd mix. And he's like terrified of her. He won't like, he'll fuck with her every here and there, but she'll go after him and he'll just like back up and leave her alone.
Butters has always had that personality. Like since the day we got him, I was actually telling the story earlier that when we got Boogie and Butters, because they're both from the same litter, it was a few weeks after Pinky died, who was that American Pit Bull Terrier that I used to have. And it was a few weeks after that. I couldn't sleep, so I had to get another dog. I wasn't going to get another dog. Me and Pinky were very close, really close. Like whenever I would jump out of the truck, and this is just kind of an aside, but I'd get out of my truck and he would be sitting there in the floorboard at the pedals, and I'd snap my fingers, I'd point, and he would jump and land exactly where I pointed, and he would land in a sitting position and wait for me to tell him to do something. Like, he was such a good dog. And I could never get Boogie under that kind of control. That motherfucker was wild. But but so there was a video that the people that we bought Butters and Boogie from posted, and Butters caught my eye immediately. I saw him on that, like the pink that runs across his lips with the white nose. I was like, I want that one. That dog's coming home with me. That's a beautiful freaking dog. I want him. And we get there, and I see him immediately as we walk up, and I pick him up, and he's just shivering. He's just shaking. He's so terrified. And I pick him up, and I'm petting him, and I'm talking to him, and he's just kind of like, all right, this is happening. I'm not sure what to think. And I'm like, well, okay, well, he doesn't seem real excited for me to be jacking with him. Maybe this isn't the right dog. And I look at my wife, and we had discussed her buying one, but we hadn't decided whether or not she was going to get one. And so I was like, do you want to hold him? And she was like, sure. So I hand him to her, and she grabs him like this, and he just burrows in her hair. and I'm like, that's your dog. Like, I don't know what to tell you. That's your dog. So he was like that. He was so terrified of everything from day one. The whole ride home from Lumberton, which is only 25 minutes from where I live, he shivered the entire ride home. I held him on my lap, trying to hold him still, because Boogie was running around the truck, and Beatrix was trying to figure out what he was doing. And so we get to the house. I put him down inside, and he runs and he hides up under the couch. And he hid under the couch for like 2 days. And up until he finally stopped hiding under things when he got stuck under our bed when he was about 6 or 7 months old. But like he was just terrified of everything. He was always scared of everything. He wouldn't even get in the truck on his own for 2.5 years. We would take him places. We took him to Childerberg, and like he rode with us in the 18-wheeler whenever we had hurricanes around here, but he would not do it on his own for up until a few months ago. He finally started like, oh, okay, you're gonna take Boogie, I'll go too. But it took 2.5 years for him to get comfortable getting in that truck. Like, he would not do it. Like, it was just his personality, always like that. Boogie was the exact opposite. Like, what? I'll do it. I'll try it. Like whatever. But so, yeah, it's funny. The personalities are really interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what Sarah and I always say about Axton, who like we both took like a total of like, I think like a week and a half off when we first got him, just so we could be at home and make sure that he didn't piss all over the house and didn't set him in his cage for too long. And like, now that he's grown up, he's just like the funniest, goofiest dog ever. And he's very, very sweet. And he always, like, when he wants attention, he'll come up to you and he'll sit down and he'll just stare at you and wag. And then, like if you walk away from him, he'll like walk up to you and lean on you. When you get home, he's always excited to see everybody. And then his thing is always, as soon as like you try to get him to do something, he just slams his paws down. Or like when we go to put him in his bed, sometimes if he's laying in our bed, he'll start growling and he'll sound super mean, but then he'll bite you, and it's just like this little nibble, just a very, very slight nibble, and then you get him a treat and he's perfectly fine. So yeah. It's really funny. He does like this huge show, but
it's like, I'm talking to you, motherfucker.
yeah, like he'll bark. He sounds super mean and growling, but yeah, just like little tiny nibbles. Never bites hard.
Boogie does not bark or growl at me or Beatrix. He does this kind of like really, can you hear him? He's doing it right now. He's talking to me right now because he can hear me, but he can't see me. If I'm home and he can't see me, he's freaking out. He's laying outside my office door right now going, oh, 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 oh. Hey, he'll do that the entire time I'm in the shower. And if I'm taking a shit and I have the door closed in the bathroom, he does that the entire time. Like if I'm home and he cannot see me, that is what he's doing the entire time. Like, he does not stop doing that until I open the door and I'm like, okay. And he's like, okay. And then he just follows me wherever I go. Yeah. And even if I let him come in the bathroom when I'm taking a shower, he'll stand outside the shower curtain and make that noise. Like it doesn't matter. I'll open the curtain and be like, look, you can see me. I'm right here. It doesn't matter. He'll stay right there. Oh, 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 oh. And that's what he does the whole time. It's funny, but he only does that with me and Beatrix. He doesn't like talk to other people that way, you know. But
yeah, Lily,
it's funny.
Yeah, Lily's a slouch whenever we're home. Okay, so I wanted to pivot over and
yeah, let's get to something serious. We're kind of back and forth and all over the place.
Talking about dogs. Okay, what is your opinion on the Pantera reunion? I know you're not that big on Pantera, but I think we should.
No, I'm a huge Pantera fan.
Well, I know you said you're bigger on Down. That's why I say that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think Down's a better band. I think they had better music, but I love Pantera. I don't mind it. I like it. I think it's good. I mean, I'm not going to go. They are coming, like, because the first show I saw, they were playing with Metallica, and they weren't coming anywhere near me. Mm-hmm. And then I saw the other day my wife showed me they released a new schedule. Yeah, they're playing with Lamb of God, and they're going to be in the Woodlands. I don't know. I'm not gonna spend $100 to go to a concert. I just never have. Per ticket, $107 per ticket. I'm just not gonna spend it. So, I mean, it's great. I think it's great for young fans that have never. I never did see them, though I should have seen them, because I mean, I'm of the age that should have gotten to see Pantera at some point. But I never did see them. But I don't know. I like the idea. I think it's cool. I think they did a good job with the musicians they chose. Because I think the respect factor is there, right? If you hear Zakk Wylde play Randy Rhoads, like, I mean, he's trying to play Randy Rhoads. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to do justice to what Randy Rhoads did. And so I think it's a good choice of musicians. I don't think they're going to disrespect the songs or the music or anything like that. So I think it's cool, you know, like, yeah, that's pretty cool. You know, I'm glad. I wish they would have done it when Vinny was still alive. Yeah. You know, I wish Vinny would have gotten over, you know, his bitterness and swallowed his pride and done it for the fans, because the fans wanted to see it. Yep. But I mean, that wasn't meant to be. It didn't happen. And here we are. And Rex and Phil have been talking about doing it for a long time. And I have a lot of respect for Rex as a musician, and Phil as a vocalist. I think Phil's probably one of the best frontmen ever to
agreed.
You know, so I mean, right up there with Bruce Dickinson and Ronnie James Dio. Like, I put Phil Anselmo. You know, I think, you know, those probably the three greatest frontmen of any metal bands. You know, you may be able to throw another one out there, and I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. But yeah, I think would be my top three to choose. Just the energy they bring to the shows, and you know, their vocals. I do worry that Phil's going to have issues with some of the higher notes, but
he's kind of cleaned up over the last couple years. Surprisingly.
Well, he had like several vocal surgeries. Yeah. You know, and his voice is really just beat up, you know, because he didn't sing with technique. He sang for sound. And when you ignore technique, you'll tear your vocal cords to shit. Yeah. And
heroin probably doesn't help either.
I'm sure it didn't hurt. It's like, put your vocal cords to sleep. Just right there. Just relax the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want. But yeah, no, I'm cool with it. I don't have an issue with it, you know, but I have heard he plays, you know, he has Phil Anselmo and the Illegals. I've heard them do a few Pantera songs, and he doesn't sound terrible. Like, but I think they're going to be very careful about the songs they choose. I wouldn't be expecting to hear a lot off of Cowboys from Hell. There's a lot of
there's a lot of that falsetto, because that was like right out of I think the last album they put out was in '88, before they put out Cowboys from Hell, and I want to say that was not Death Trap, Power Metal, I think it was called, in '88. And he'd had a lot more of the Rob Halford-esque kind of highs and stuff like that. And obviously that carried over a lot.
Wasn't that a different vocalist?
No, it was a different vocalist for the first 3 albums. And
then,
then Phil joined in, it was like 87, 86, somewhere around there. I'm a little shaky, pre-90s Pantera. But yeah, he joined for that one album, and then it was Cowboys from Hell. They're playing a lot of stuff, if I remember correctly, off of Vulgar and Far Beyond Driven. And I think they even did some stuff off of Reinventing the Steel. I don't think they did a lot off the Great Southern Trendkill, and obviously they play Cowboys from Hell. So I
would expect, maybe like Strength Beyond Strength.
They even played Use My Third Arm, which is kind of like a side song, but I mean that's like that's a thrasher, and I'm like, it's kind of cool to see Zach playing heavy shit like that.
Yeah, like Revolution Is My Name. I'd expect those songs, but I would expect them to avoid Cowboys from Hell for the most part. Like you said, there's a lot of falsettos. There's a lot of highs that I don't think Phil can hit anymore.
So the one thing that actually kind of impressed me, and I understand why they chose what the fuck is it, Charlie Benanti. They always considered Dime the 6th member of Anthrax because he was on like a couple songs. I think it was in the album Stomp 442. There was a track that he played a solo and did some vocals on that record as well. So he's kind of like the closest person, because Vinny wasn't like a very friendly person all throughout Pantera's career. Like
you don't say.
Yeah. When you read Dime's biography and kind of look at all the interviews, he wasn't the life of the party like Dime, Phil, and Rex. He was a little bit more reserved and a little bit more on the business side of things, which is fine. But then once again, now you don't really leave much of a legacy. So I was actually really surprised with how he did. Like he captured that big Vinny sound. And
did you ever see Vinny play live? I'm sorry.
Yes, I saw Hell Yeah.
I saw Hell Yeah too. He's super entertaining as a drummer. You would think he would have some personality.
Yeah.
But
it's probably just like the close friends, and I
much better than Lars. It's like I mean, it's like somebody put Lars's personality on, I don't know, what's the dude from Dream Theater?
Not Petrucci. Fuck.
Yeah, Petrucci. That's what I was thinking.
No, that's a guitar player. Fuck. Who's the drummer for Dream Theater?
It doesn't matter. The joke's gone. I fucked the joke up. I went blank. So there we go. Yeah.
Okay, that's gonna fucking bug me.
I'll just say Thomas Hawk. You put Lars's personality on Thomas Hawk. There we go. That works.
Yeah, well, see, like Lars does have a great personality when drumming, but he's like not the greatest drummer. But I don't know. People hate Lars, but I'm gonna be honest. I've always liked Lars because I felt like he always played to the song. He's not the best drummer by any stretch of the imagination, but I tell people this all the time, that my drummer now, Matt, he's much like a Lars Ulrich, except for I think he's, probably like better. But
don't tell him that. Jeez. You want the guy to go home and commit suicide tonight?
He's a very good
go knock on his door tomorrow and all you hear motherfuckers threw a belt over the damn shower rod. Just
Jesus. But he's a really, really good songwriter, and that's what I always liked about Lars, is that he never just played over the song. He played to the song. Like I think about Load and Reload a lot when I talk about this
albums.
Oh, listen, I'm a blues guy, so like if you listen to the Outlaw,
I'm a blues guy too, but those were horrible albums. What the hell was he doing with his snare in Saint Anger? Jesus, dude, shut that trash can lid shit up. You are not the drummer of Helmet. You're not a jazz musician. Shut up. Just stop trying.
There was a band that actually did a full cover of Saint Anger, and they changed the guitar tones and drums. And obviously it's not James Hetfield singing, but it actually sounds really good. And I like those songs a lot, but like the guitar tones and the drums just sounded so awful. Like, listen to the Unnamed Feeling and tell me there's not a more just fucking like mean, cold kind of song, like a real dark James Hetfield song. It's really fucking good, but it's ruined.
Something. Anything that Sleep wrote is meaner and darker.
Okay, yeah. We're talking about Metallica here, though, right? We're talking about mainstream normie shit. Like today, I was listening to Orange Goblin, the way that they do not Symptoms of the Universe. Oh, what the fuck is it? Into the Void. Into the Void.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, fucking killer. So I'm listening to them, Ex Hoarder, Black Label, Grand Magus, and a couple other like stoner metal bands when I was working out today. Cause I like had Black Label Society stuck in my head last week. I'm like, you know what? That sounds like the playlist for this week.
Yeah, there you go. That's a hell of a fucking playlist.
Yeah.
And next week, High on Fire. Yeah.
Well, so there was like this Facebook video going around where this guitar switched to like the neck pickup, and he just did like this real slow, like this just clear stoner riff, and I'm like, that's set the tone. That set the fucking tone.
Yeah. Have you heard that Pink Floyd cover album that was done, Dark Side of the Doom?
Oh no.
Oh dude, you got to check it out, dude. It's all doom bands. It's all doom metal bands playing Dark Side of the Moon. So fucking good.
Oh, wow.
The Sword plays a song on there.
Oh
man, it's so good. Yeah, you'll dig it.
Oh, fucking right. Yeah, I was supposed to listen to like a lot of like heavier shit recently. Orbit Culture was one band I was listening to a lot. Revocation, a lot of like real technical death metal stuff. Inferi, Necroptic, I think was one other band. And I don't know, just like all of a sudden I'm like, you know what, I gotta go back to like calmer shit. Yeah, man. I'm gonna go see the Pantera reunion. We're going to go see Metallica and them out in New Jersey. And
Cool.
This is how I knew my wife was a keeper, because they were coming, you know, with Lamb of God here in Pittsburgh. And a friend of ours had sent us a thing and said, "Oh, let's go." And I said, "Oh, well, I'll sell our tickets to the one out in New Jersey, and we'll just go to the one here in Pittsburgh so that we don't have to pay for the hotel and everything." And I mean,
And she's like, "We'll go to both." Fuck
that. Yeah. I was like, okay,
dude. I want to like, I would kill to see Randy in Philadelphia.
Ooh,
just because I want to hear him say Philadelphia.
Yeah. I've seen them in Pittsburgh, Jesus Christ, probably 5 times. So this is going to be like my 7th time seeing Lamb of God. Jesus Christ, I've seen Lamb of God a lot. I've seen Trivium, I think 9 times, Metallica twice, Megadeth 3 or 4 times. Jesus Christ.
Surprise. I'm not a big Trivium fan.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I don't really like their harmonies so much. Like, to me, like Shadows Fall was a better version of what Trivium was trying to be.
Yeah. Well, you know what's sad is that them and God Forbid were like the 2 OG.
I like God Forbid a lot.
Oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
So they were like the 2 OG bands, because like they were around way before Trivium and a lot of like the other bigger bands, even like All That Remains. And I love All That Remains. I love all of these guys, but like they were around before and they didn't make it to the same level that like Killswitch Engage, All That Remains, and Trivium did. I completely forgot I was wearing a Trivium shirt. But yeah, like they never got the credit, and they absolutely deserve every bit of it, because you know who took Trivium on their first fucking tour? God Forbid. And who broke up? God Forbid. So that's
they got back together.
They're doing shows, but it's not with like the original lineup.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like they, instead of it being Doc and Dallas, it's Doc and Nick Hepa from As I Lay Dying.
Oh,
so
okay.
like it's still cool, but they never got the fucking credit for it. That's fucking bullshit.
I just remembered seeing something a while back that they were touring again, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" Because my wife like literally cried when God Forbid broke up.
Oh my god,
it broke her heart.
Killer. They were so fucking good.
The first big festival she went to in England, was it Grass Pop? She saw them there. Yeah.
I like look at those videos of Grass Pop and all those other festivals over in Europe. I'm like, dude, those just
she's been to a couple of them. I'd have to get her to come tell you which ones they were, but she's been to a couple of them.
Yeah.
Because she lived in London for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I don't think she went to Bloodstock. I don't know. I'd have to ask her. She could tell me which ones they were.
So like
she went to one in France. Which one's in France? I can't remember. She went to one in France. She went to the one in England, and I'm thinking she went to that one that's in Berlin too.
I can't remember all the names off the top
but
of my head.
yeah, I don't remember. She's been to quite a few of them. And remember the episode we did with you and the guy from South Africa, Carlos, that musician from South Africa? Like he goes every year. He goes to England and goes to Grass Pop.
Oh man, that would be like the coolest shit in the world. So like a lot of people rip on Bad Wolves, and I get it, but like understand those dudes in that band have been grinding for years. Like Doc played in God Forbid, Tommy Vex played in Divine Heresy, Vex, Snot, John Birkeland played in Devil Driver, and I think he was in some other bands too. And some of those other guys were like Chris Kane, the other original guitar player, he was in Bury Your Dead at one point. Like these guys are fucking veterans for metal. So look, every bit of success that Bad Wolves got, absolutely fucking deserved it, because those dudes worked their asses off for fucking years and got nothing until they made Bad Wolves. So
I think I'm not making any promises, but I think from what I understand, when Devil Driver does come through and hits Houston, I know where you're going. They're going to come crash at our place.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So Beatrix is going to be cooking for all of them. They're going to come hang out, and we're going to bullshit. We'll get VIPs and all that good shit from what I understand.
Dude, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Cause she's always talking to Jonathan, like they're really good friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, they, like she was always a big Devil Driver fan, and she was friends with him on Facebook. And I don't know, one day, like it was after he left Devil Driver, she got into a conversation with his mom, and they were just bullshitting on Facebook. And then the next thing she knew, like Jonathan Miller was like messaging her and was like, "Hey man, thanks for talking to my mom, blah, blah, blah." And they just became really good friends. So yeah, they're supposed to come down. We're supposed to go up to Maine and hang out with him at some point, but I don't know. I don't know if rejoining Devil Driver has changed that, if he's going to be moving back out to California or what's going on. Yeah. So I don't know, but I'm stoked that he's going back. I mean, hopefully it improves like upon what they've been releasing. Their last album wasn't that great.
Yeah, there's that Dealing with Demons, I think it was. I've listened to it a bunch of times, but I can't say there was anything real memorable. That Trust No One there were some good tracks. Like
I like Trust No One. Trust No One's a good one.
Yeah, I like most. I can't really remember too many off that. I'm thinking of the one, not My Night. I think it's My Night Sky. I really like that song. I did really like Winter Kills. I know you and I kind of butted heads about this.
I didn't like their cover of Sail. To me, that just ruined the album for me.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a little break from the show real quick to tell you about the show's sponsors. I am now working with the great Stephen Fox to bring you Fox & Sons coffee. As you can see, I got 2 bags right here, or for those listening, I was holding 2 bags. It is organically roasted up in Michigan. If you're a caffeine addict, much like myself, then head over to foxandsonscoffee.com to get yourself some of their fantastic coffee. They got a light roast, which I'm holding in my hand. They have the Electric Boogaloo blend, which is fantastic as well. I just had it this morning. And if you're like me, you like dark roast coffee, which kicks you right in the freaking face first thing in the morning. They have that for you as well. So head over to foxandsonscoffee.com, use code Kyle, Kyle, to get yourself a little discount. Let them know that I sent you, and get yourself caffeinated, get jacked and tan, and do what you got to do. All right, guys, back to the podcast. Thanks.
And
okay.
I mean, I thought it was like, it's like I told Beatrix, if a new band released Winter Kills, I'd be like, hell yeah, that's a good album. But it's Devil Driver, right? And so like there are expectations that you're that you get involved in, and so yeah, I can't remember the one I like so much. It's the one with the owl on the front. I can see
Pray for Villains.
Yeah, Pray for Villains is my favorite.
Oh my god,
album.
That's like putting on Pray for Villains. I could probably deadlift 600 pounds. Like that is like the most,
that's such a great album.
Fucking amps me up. That and Pure Sincerity, like how they have that little and then it kicks into the fucking double bass and the riff.
Yeah.
I just felt like I could fucking like throw a dumpster through a wall. That whole album is fucking genius. And that was the first album that got me into them, because I think I remember hearing I've Been Sober. I'm like, wow. And then Another Night in London, and that's another one of those songs that you just want to like fucking flip a table.
Yeah. Well, and then there's Oh, what's the one that Beatrix likes so much? Oh shit!
Forgiveness is a six gun.
No. It's another album. It's
Oh,
her
the last
favorite
kind
album.
words.
Yeah,
Or is it the fury of our maker hand? Or the fury of our maker's hand?
No, it's Last Kind Words because
Okay.
that's the one with how was the name of that song?
Head on to heartache, clouds over California.
Oh, hold on. Let me
the
just
horn
look.
the horn of betrayal.
That's it. Horn of
Okay.
Betrayal. That's
Yeah,
the one
and-
she likes so much. She loves that song.
Yeah, the Monsters of the Deep. I think that's the last track on that album, and it just has this nasty bass line, and then it goes in this real fucking heavy.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
god,
a great album. Yeah.
both those albums are just fucking solid front to back. And I remember watching their documentary. I think when they were making Beast, either that or came out like right after Pray for Villains. I can't remember when this documentary was. And I remember Des saying, I'm proud of every single note on Pray for Villains. And I'm like, Pray for Villains and The Last Kind Words, you won't find a bad track on either one of those albums. Absolutely love both of those. And they did that cover of Wasted Years, which is actually pretty good too.
Yeah, they did a really good job on that cover.
Yeah.
My favorite song by them is It's in the Cards, which was it's a bonus track on Pray for Villains. So you have to buy the extended version, but I love that fucking I'm like talking about I get goosebumps. I love that song. Like it's like I don't know what it is about that song that just digs deep at me.
Yeah, it does kind of have like that dirty, almost like bluesy jazz kind of feel to it throughout the verses. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I just love that song. It's such a good song. It's kind of like have you ever heard Zakk Wylde's cover of Whiter Shade of Pale?
Oh, love that fucking song.
It brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even know what you're singing about, but this is so gorgeous. Like,
did you ever hear him do so if you listen to The Last Goodbye on the Concrete Jungle, which was their album in 2008, I think it was the only one they put out with Roadrunner. It was a decent album, but like The Last Goodbye on that is like okay, but when we get off this call, I don't know if you listen to it, look up The Last Goodbye by Zakk Wylde and like just him doing it on piano. That is like one of the most beautiful fucking things you'll ever.
Oh man,
so
speaking
good.
of that, In This River at Dimebag's funeral.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, you can't like not cry at that. I don't care.
Yeah.
If you know those two, and seeing that live is like one of the coolest things in the world, just because it's like that moment of camaraderie. And it's so funny to me because there's some boomer people that I work with that say, oh, all these metal concerts, people are so angry and stuff like that. I'm like, listen, if you go to a concert, it's like meeting people that you like, family that you never even knew you had, because everybody there's gonna be so kind. And like, go observe a metal concert when Zakk sits down with a piano to play In This River, and tell me all those people aren't sharing like a moment.
Yeah. Well, people think that metal is just like heavy guitars and screaming, and there are bands that kind of like transcend that idea. It's still heavy, but how is it heavy? Right? It's like trying to find freedom. Like, how are you trying to find freedom? Like, and where do you find that? And what's the real definition of freedom, and what does it mean? Like, is your idea of freedom like hedonistic, and then you're a slave to your passions? Well, is that freedom because you're addicted to heroin, or you're a sex addict, or whatever? Are you really free? Like, what are you looking? What is freedom? What does that mean? And so it's kind of like that with metal. It's like there's this transcendence. Like, it's like, what does it mean to be metal? Like, what is it about? And I don't think people understand the emotive like nature of that music, you know. And it's kind of being metal. My buddy, actually, I need to get in touch with him. I'm supposed to do a podcast with him here in the next couple of weeks. So I have a friend of mine who runs a website, has for years, called Metal Motivation. His name's CJ Ortiz. And he's like really good friends with like Rex Brown and some of these guys.
Oh, no shit. Cool.
Yeah. And so what he's done is he's turned like the metal mentality into a life coaching strategy. You would actually really enjoy like talking to him because he's into like health and fitness and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, check him out.
Yeah, I'll send you some of his videos. But he just did this one at the beginning of the year, and I want to get him on to talk about it. And it's this video series. He does like it's like Monday he'll release like a 9-minute video, Tuesday it's a 10-minute video, and it's like these 9 to 12-minute videos Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and it's a theme for the week. And it was like the first week of the year, the theme was sacred duty. And it's talking about your sacred duty to yourself and not living in nihilism, not becoming a nihilist and being true to yourself. And I like loved it. I was like, hey, dude, like, I want to get you on to talk about this. And he was like, hell yeah, we're going to have to do it. He said he was booked up until February. So I got to get in touch with him here in the next few days. But yeah, but he's a good dude. I'll hook you up with him after whenever I get back in touch with him. I'll make sure that you get in touch with him.
No, that's a beautiful concept. I'm trying to find a picture here that would just describe what. Oh, I can't believe I can't fucking find it. It was basically just Dime saying about how like, oh fuck, I wish I could remember. But he said, metal is what drives him or something like that. And I don't know, man. You laid it out perfectly, is that there are different kinds of heavy, because the heavy that you feel from this river is going to be different than the heavy that you feel from something like Whitechapel, or even the heavy that you feel from Sleep or from Superjoint Ritual. Or from
like
Pantera.
November's Doom, like that type of, like, there's different stuff going on. It's the heavy is the mentality, right? And it's like what I was talking to you about earlier about, I don't give a fuck what your excuses are. Like, you have a responsibility. Like, who cares? That's what metal's about. It's like, oh well, shit happens, man up, move on. And it's the music that motivates you to man up and move on. That's why what makes Hatebreed so great, right? Because their music's so motivational, it's so uplifting.
You got Jamie Josta fucking screaming in your face, and no, exactly.
Born to bleed.
Yeah, and it's never like a down moment with that either. And I think you and I shot the shit about this before, but yeah, Jamie Josta does seem kind of like a uplifting, positive kind of dude. I think he even wrote a song. I might be wrong about this, but I believe there's a song called "Conceived by Act of Violence," and I believe it's because he was actually conceived through a rape. And he spoke about that in that specific song. Yeah,
I mean, just think it. Like, "In ashes they shall reap," man, is so fucking motivating.
Yeah.
Like, makes you want to run through a fucking wall. You know?
Right.
I'm born to bleed, fighting to succeed, built to endure what the world throws at me. Like, there's shit you can do to me. Like, whatever, bitch.
Yeah,
like,
you know what?
But you got to have that attitude. And like, where do you get that attitude from? Like, that's what metal is. That's metal. Like, the metal's not the music's heavy, blah, blah, blah. But there's something more to it. Right. There's this deeper level. Like, we're talking in levels here. Some people only hear Randy screaming.
Yeah.
But then if you dig into what he's talking about, you're like, oh yeah.
That's some deep shit. Yeah, he's a really fucking good songwriter too.
Yeah, he's a very good songwriter.
Yeah. Did you ever look up the lyrics to "Contractor"?
I don't know.
Okay, it's off their they're off 2000 or off of Wrath. That was like the first album I think I bought off of from Lamb of God, and just that whole front to back is a fucking masterpiece. Same with Sacrament. I just fucking love both those albums front to back. But I'll never forget when I saw Hatebreed. They opened up with "To the Threshold," and to this day, there's like, that's just one of those songs that just fucking hypes me up, because I'll never forget them coming out and then just out and fucking go.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, like, one of the first song I mentioned by Pantera that they would probably play live, "Strength Beyond Strength."
Oh yeah.
Like, that's just in your face. Domination. Domination is my favorite Pantera song, because it's like, no, you're not going to stop me. I'm just going to keep moving. I'm just going to keep doing it. You punch me. It's Cataclysm does this thing, man. In one of their songs, what song is it? Where they take that scene from Rocky V where he's talking to his son, He said it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how many times you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what it is.
Mhm.
That's what it's about. It's that attitude. It's more of an attitude than it is a sound.
Mhm.
And like I can listen to like let's say like Alice in Chains, where people consider them grunge. I consider them metal.
Yeah.
Like there's this attitude. Like there's something.
Lane Staley is like the heaviest vocalist in his writing ever. I mean, that is dark shit.
Yeah.
That's a buddy of mine that I used to play in a band with. He said, you know, I knew I never wanted to do heroin because I listened to too much Alice in Chains. I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Back when I used to write poetry all the time when I was younger, my dad I would every once in a while I'd let my dad like check it out, and he'd be like, "Yeah, you listen to way too much Alice in Chains. Like your shit is depressing, man. What the hell are you talking about? Like you're a middle class white kid in suburban Katy, Texas, outside of Houston. You're like you don't know nothing about darkness, you know." But it was just like there was that ability to get in touch with like innermost things that you felt and really like dialogue with that. And there's not a lot of music that does that, you know? And so like the music I'm attracted to is like that. It's very much like, whether it be like Stevie Ray Vaughan and his guitar playing will make you feel things you've never felt before in your life, you know? Or Lane Staley's, you know, lyrics, like you're like, what? Or even Tool, you know, Maynard, like he does some crazy stuff with vocals, you know, and lyrics, and you're like, oh crap, you know. So yeah, it's about that there's just levels to pulling these things out of you, and it's more about building strength than it is about, you know, expressing the emotions. And I don't think people understand that, especially people that, you know, like just hear it and, oh, it sounds like a bunch of screaming. You know, well, yeah, you're not going to get it. And some of it is, you know, old school guys, you know, have been around for a while. A lot of times we can pick out like, oh, this is crap, and this is trash, this is good. You know, I know what this guy's about. I can tell this dude's all about, he's a grifter. He's just trying to make money, you know. Like when Vanilla Ice did metal, we knew that it wasn't real, you know.
One thing that kind of popped up in my brain, seeing the video, I want to say it was Grass Pop 1996 of Sepultura playing Attitude. You want to talk about something that just hits you on a fucking different level, is fucking Roots. Just like that tribal fucking, and it wasn't like this
beautiful.
It wasn't like it was really like difficult songs or any like, holy shit, this is a masterpiece, but like musically, but just like the way they developed the whole song and like the theme of the album was just so fucking, it's encapsulating. Like
it talked to something inside you that was like that you didn't know existed. You were like, what is that I'm feeling there? What is this that's happening to me? You know, and then you come running out in war paint and, you know, throwing spears at neighbors and
just fucking murdered a tiger or something.
Yeah.
Just listening to them play Attitude and just the drum dun, 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 it's shaking the whole fucking stadium. There's nothing like that. Like I get chills just fucking thinking about it, but I'll never forget watching that, and I still watch it every here and there and listen to that album. Like if I really need a boost, like Radamhata, Roots, Cutthroat, Spit, just that whole album front to back just hit this nasty
great album
vibe.
And what Max Cavalera did. I mean, you had Soulfly, you had Sepultura, you had Cavalera, Conspiracy, and now you have Killer Be Killed, which is just incredible.
Yeah,
I love Killer Be Killed.
Meeting of the fucking minds.
Yeah, like, no doubt.
You cannot find two more unique singers, because Troy, you can, and it's funny because
three, because you got what's his name from the Dillinger Escape Plan.
Yeah. So like,
I can't think of his name. Brian, I think.
No, Greg Puciato.
There you go.
So like Troy doesn't sing the way that he sings in Kill or Be Killed in Mastodon, at least not very often. Like he really has like that bellow, like that just it's so fucking awesome. He's one of my favorite singers. And then Greg Puciato has this ridiculous range, and Max is kind of a dummy when it comes to writing songs, but like he still complements the songs. Like they all, I don't know how they have that perfect chemistry, because you would have never thought like those three guys would.
What was that first single that came out that was so good?
Wings of Feather and Wax.
Wings, yes.
Yeah.
Jeez, I could listen to that song for hours. Yeah. I just play it on repeat. I love that freaking song.
Yeah. That whole first album, same deal, solid front. The only song I think I didn't like was Forbidden Fire, and not that I like hated it, but it just didn't do anything for me. Every other song in that album loved, like Fire to Your Flag. That's one of like the most punk and like probably one of my favorite like punky thrashy kind of songs.
Did you I think you told me you heard the project that Jamie Josta did with Kirk Wonstead.
Kingdom of Sorrow. Nasty, love it.
So that second album was so good.
Yeah.
What was it? From Heroes to Dust.
Behind the Blackest Tears. That was the second album, right?
Yeah, no, but the song From Heroes to Dust.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Jeez, when Kirk is just wailing, you're just like, oh my gosh. Like even Jamie Josta, I heard him do an interview about that song, and he was like, yeah, I was supposed to sing, but Kirk did such a great job. I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah. I've been getting into Crowbar too. I forgot to mention earlier that I was listening to them. And
Crowbar's just brilliant.
I'm like kicking myself in the ass because I'm like, this is just like so beautifully like doomy and angry. I just fucking love it. Like Planets Collide, and I can't remember the one song. Not Symmetry in Black. It was off their 2014 album, but I remember it just my will not be broken. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, he got real kind of like, I think after spending enough time with Jamie Josta, he started like kind of like motivational kind of shit.
Yeah,
like because he did like, what was the name of that album, man? It was such a cool cover too. Shit, I can't remember, but it was the album that came out right around 2014. It was like green and white and with like shades of yellow. I can't remember the name of the album.
Hold up real quick. Yeah. I don't think I think I had the chance to see them, but I never saw them.
I saw them. We got kicked out of that show. I saw. I'll tell you the story. It's fucking insanity. So we go up to Austin in 2019.
Sever the Wicked Hand.
Sever the Wicked Hand. Yes, it's such a good album. So we go up to Austin in 2019. Crowbar is playing with Corrosion of Conformity, and I'm like, fuck yes. Like two of the members of Down in their former bands. I'm like, yes, I'm doing this. I'm going. And they had some great bands open for them. Lopan open for them. That's how I found out about Lopan. So we show up. First thing we do is we go over to Crowbar's table. We buy shirts, right? So Beatrix is trying on a shirt, and she's like, yeah, I want to get this one. And then, so we got her a Crowbar shirt, and as she's pulling it off, her other shirt comes off with it. Well, so Kirk and his wife are sitting right there, and we're bullshitting with them because I had met Kirk in New Orleans before. So we're all bullshitting, and Kirk's wife is like, oh yeah, baby, take it off, and like having a good time with it, right? Mm-hmm. So we're like, oh yeah, fuck. So we're chilling. And so Beatrix puts her shirt back on. We go grab a shirt from a low pan table, and we go and start listening to the show. So the whole low pan is basically a three-piece. It's really four members, but the vocalist, no, let me see. Well, yeah, it's four members, but the vocalist is playing lead guitar and rhythm, and their other guitarist is kind of in and out. He doesn't really play constant. It's basically a three-piece. And their drummer, like, they don't set the drummer up in the back. They set him up on the side. So you got the drummer here, the vocalist here, the bass player here, and then you have the other guitarist kind of set back, right? And well, so we're standing off to the right. So we're like kind of catacorner from the drummer. We're like, that's the closest one to us. Well, he caught a glimpse of Beatrix and he just gets an instant crush. Like, couldn't take his eyes off of her, just staring at her the whole fucking time he's playing, which I thought was hilarious. We're cracking up. So they finish and they get off stage and she's looking at me. She's like, I'm hot. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, what do you want to do? Like, you're in a tank top. She's like, I'm going to take my shirt off. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. Like, the bartender's over there. She had a tank top on that was cut down to her waist and her tit was just hanging out. So I was like, fuck it. They're like, the bartender's got her tit hanging out. Take your shirt off. Who fucking cares? We're in a bar in Austin. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
So Crowbar takes stage. They play. Then Corrosion comes on stage. They get about halfway through their set. And then the bouncer comes over and tells Beatrix she either has to put her shirt on or we have to leave. And I'm like, there's like 15 minutes left of the show.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, dude? She's been sitting, and I start getting mad at him and I'm cussing him out and blah, blah, blah. And he's talking shit about her. And I'm like, you motherfucker, blah, 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 blah. And so, like, he basically was, y'all just need to go. And so we just left. I was like, fuck it. All right, fine. You know? And so we left. It was just like the craziest thing. It's like we got kicked out of a club in Austin for my wife showing her tits in one of the most hedonistic cities in the United States. It was like the weirdest thing at a metal show of all places.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. You think they'd be happy to have it not be such a fucking sausage fest? Jesus Christ.
Right. Yeah, it was just so weird. So, yeah.
Tommy, we'll be here talking about heavy metal all night. Anyways, I know you wanted to do something. I know you had to hang your clothes up so you can go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, I got to dry them. I haven't dried them. I put them on. I put them on to wash at 6:30 this morning, and then I forgot about them, so I got to go dry them. Might have to wash them again. They might be moldy by the time I get to them.
Oh, we'll find you, dude.
Year zero at the Libertarian Institute. That's libertarianinstitute.org/year-0/ or TommySalmons.com is where you can find my Substack, and that's pretty much it. So after this long talk, they're probably tired of hearing of me. So all right, we've heard enough of this redneck. Get him out of there.
No, that's all right. If they ever met my dad, and if you ever met my dad, I think you guys would get along great. And I think all the listeners, if they knew my dad, they would get it. But yeah, man, if you got anything else, we'll close her out, brother.
No, that's it, man. We're just we're doing the ESG this week for paid subscribers at my Substack, on my Patreon. All the links are in the show notes. YouTube, Rumble, all that in show notes. You can find me. So yeah.
Well, rock and roll, man. It was a blast.
All right, dude.